Blessings, soul family. I am just so honored to have Peter and Tracy with me today. Peter and I have had a few interviews in the past, and it's always been just such a delight. He just brings so much wisdom and love. And I know that the collaboration today with his wife joining us, Tracy, this is going to be my first time to have this honor to spend this time with you. So I know you guys have a book that is coming out that's called the Ascension Handbook Level 3. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get into that, let's have you introduce yourselves and then we'll talk about this exciting book that's coming out.
Okay, so my name is Tracy Jechter, and I probably was channeling from the late 1980s, but I didn't know that that's what it was. I thought I was just using my intuition in my body work practice. I would invite people's sacred higher selves or their angels or whatever to help guide me to give my clients what they needed. And Peter was very good about encouraging me to see, could I take what I was doing and then bring that into the realm of doing one-on-one sessions. And it pretty much took off. A lot of the stuff that will be in our upcoming book arose out of the one-on-one sessions that I was doing. And when a certain kind of process showed up over and over again, it became like, okay, well, obviously this is something a lot of people need. So let's put it in the book. So it was very exciting for me. This is the first book I really kind of co-authored with Peter. Um, and I'm just really so much in gratitude for how much doing this work has allowed me to blossom and just feel incredibly fulfilled.
Yeah, and I'm Peter D. So this is going to be our third book, level 1 and level 2, clear communication with your sacred higher self, God realization. And level 3 is going to be all about service. We are the co-creators of the Becoming Awesome website, becomingawesome.one.one. It's super important to have spiritual community. Everybody who's in their ascension path knows that because you feel so crazy and alone. So this is a place for folks like us to get together. What's really kind of fun is we have a different business model. We actually do sessions 3 days a week by donation. So it's not about making money, although we kind of love it when you do drop a donation on us. But it's about, are you really willing to go and see what's blocking you and moving forward, clear that out with the help of other people who've done clearing work and are moving forward. So that's kind of the whole basis of it. And what's in book 3 is builds up on the other 2 levels on service and lots of processes that we've done that are super effective because these are handbooks, these are how-to books, lots of processes that are super effective for getting your vibration lighter, getting more connection.
And I have to say, Peter's incredible superpower is that he is able to take what for most people would be complex ideas and practices, and that might take people years of working with them to see results, and made it into a very easy to understand, super simple guide. Read through it, try the things for yourself. You'll have amazing kind of awakenings. And then if there's anything you get stuck on, we're here. Others who have trained with us are here to help do one-on-one sessions to get over any humps that you find you're not able to do on your own.
It's so fun how we're making Ascension easy now, right? Because don't you just feel like for years we've made it so complex and it's so hard and all these things. And we're finally getting to this place where I feel like we're starting to realize that it can be fun and it doesn't have to be hard. It just with those step by steps of how do I do it? Because I feel like a lot of times we hear about what it is or what the experience is or what to expect, but we don't get a lot of just how do I do it? Like how do I ascend? And that's what I love about what you guys are doing is that you have a book they can pick up, they have a session they can go to, you have a community. So I want to talk a little bit about what they would expect. What I know, I mean, gosh, I want to talk about all three books, but we'll focus on this one because I know you have some stuff coming up that's going to be fabulous to just bring people into experiencing this book. Is it a book that somebody could pick up that haven't read one and two, and they could just go into straight into level three?
So it's a yes and a no there. We're offering a class on the weekend of the 18th, 19th, and 20th of October. That you can just dive in because it's processes and experiential. In the books, we keep referring to concepts like as if you know them. So, so you're going to be like, what are they talking about here? Okay. So that kind of builds on the knowledge. But when you're actually experience it, you can just dive in. And I love what you're saying, Jules, because you remember how there used to be mystery schools and there used to be one master on the planet and he might spend a lifetime and he might have one or two masters that he would raise up. And that's how it was for the stench energy for ages. And now it's all of us. It's
Mhm.
so cool.
It's so
Yeah, and that's
powerful.
another thing that I feel like we're very clear on. When we work with people, it's to give them the confidence that they can do this, right? To find within themselves the way to connect to the divine, to get the guidance, and to do what they need to be on their spiritual path, because we're all unique and individual.
I
Yeah,
love
for a
that.
long time, channelers were always kind of esoteric and out there themselves. And the messages they would bring in were always, we love you, there's grace, we love you. And it was beautiful. The energy's always uplifting and it's a perfect message. But we're now coming into what I call the new wave, the second wave of channelers. And these are people who, it's like the internet, anybody can talk to anybody. You're not just aligned with one entity. You can now connect to all of them and stuff. And as such, there's going to be a lot of new voices and a lot of people doing it. And that's what the whole point of Ascension is. There's no longer masters and teachers. We've out of grade school now. We're stepping into adulthood and we are going to be the ones doing it. That's why I'm so excited. If I can help with that, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. That's, it's fun. I love that you mentioned that because I feel like that's also a level of awakening in itself is that you recognize that we're in an era where we're kind of putting away everything that's been taught in the past. So there is no hierarchy anymore because we're all, if we're, really doing this in through ascension, we're not doing it through a teaching, we're doing it through experience, and then we're sharing that experience, and so we're all ascending together. And that's such a difference from what we were taught in the past, right? It's like, oh, you have to do this and you have to do this, and then after working for me for 10 years you get one diksha. I know at one time, I don't know if you know what a
Right? Wasn't
diksha.
that terrible?
But now it's like, what, I don't even,
We give away
here,
free
let me do
Deeksha on our
it.
website. You can sign up and get it for free now anytime you want it.
It's so funny. I always rebelled against things like that because, ascension is something that we experience, right? It's something we experience and then we share that experience with others. And then in that reflection, more ascension happens. And that's the beauty of where we are is, there will always be those of us that are full on, like you and I, that we're just full on and this is our whole life. And we open up to be of service, to share what our journey has been. And in that journey, other people can experience their own journey in a reflection of our journey. And that was like a mouthful, but I think you get where I'm going. So
Oh, it's so beautiful.
but anyways, okay, so what's the next question here? So let's talk a little bit about service because ascension in that service aspect of it is kind of like what I just put in a huge mouthful, but I want to just turn it over to you and let you kind of reflect on that.
Okay, so um, what we have noticed in our growth is the more we give away whatever it is we have already learned to do, something we have had mastery in, the more the divine gives us additional spiritual gifts and abilities. And so it's both the joy of watching the person, who's come to you for some assistance, start to glow and their whole field gets open and they really see all the possibilities for them. And there's this like built-in reward system somehow from spirit that when you're being of service, it makes sure that you continue to grow so that you have then new levels of understanding that you can teach to someone else. And it's just this beautiful flow.
Yeah. So in the past, there were teachings about denial. You should be an ascetic and should do without. And then there were teachings that Buddha came out, like this pain and stuff like that. All these teachers. We're in the school of fulfillment.
Mm.
You get fulfilled, and then naturally only one more thing gives you joy, and that's sharing what you have. Okay. So whatever it is, whether you're still in the material game, play that, go get that, go get the job, get the relationship, get the car, whatever it is, then you're fulfilled. And now all of a sudden you have something that you might want to give. And the only thing that fills that boat once you have fulfillment is sharing your own joy. And that's really what service is. So this is a book about becoming fulfilled and then learning how to give it away. Uh, I found about a year ago after I started the Becoming Awesome website, that's becomingawesome.one.one. So about a year after I started that, I was paddleboarding and I was talking to Spirit, and Spirit says, "Okay, I'm going to give you some more new skills." And I'm like, "Cool, why?" And Spirit says, "Because Peter, you're into it. You're totally giving stuff away, and as long as you continue to do that, we're going to feed you everything you can take." And that became the germ for the third book, why service is important and why it's built up after the other two books, which are how to get more clear and more in contact so you can then move into a place of service. And when you're ready, we've got some brand new cool processes that have been downloaded for us that are in the third book. We'll talk about those. But right now, I just want to tell you that, yeah, service, it's so fulfilling. And once you're fulfilled, everybody gets fulfilled.
Mm. What's coming to me, I feel like it's important to say right here is that I can see the flip side of that. And I think it's always important to see the other side of when it's almost like you overgive trying to fulfill something. And that is, so I love that this is kind of the third step, right? It's like learn to fulfill in a way that is pure and healthy so that your vessel can be poured into by that divine and that the service is pure because that's the most powerful kind of service, right? So I'd love just a little reflection on that because I could hear that question coming through, or I was just picking up on somebody's thought pattern. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's worth talking about.
Yeah, definitely, definitely get fulfilled before you give, because otherwise you'll be giving out of a sense of obligation.
Yeah.
And if you give it out of a sense of obligation, guess what comes back to you? Because remember, what goes around comes around. You can get obligation back. So yeah, definitely, Jules, you've nailed it.
Yeah, it's that beautiful balance between getting fulfilled to the place where you feel like you have something to give, and then also getting over any sense that you have to be perfect or know everything before you have something to give, right?
Right.
Being willing to
Right.
step up on it's still kind of a little scary, that edge, but you dive in and then spirit shows you that like, yeah, you were ready. You come to trust and uh be a more active listener to your divine, to your source as you're doing whatever kind of service that it is. So it's actually a flow through you from your divine to others.
It just like, they say that a lot with practitioners, and I know, Tracy, that you're one, that it's when we step out of the way and just allow our bodies to be the facilitator of that divine frequency is you can go forever, right? Because you're just an open channel and you always feel so much better afterwards because you let go of all of the programming and the thoughts and you just allow yourself to be in that space. But that can be true in every aspect of our life. Like that's a way of living and that's a way of mastering consciousness and holding it that divine place through consciousness, which I think is such a huge part of our evolution as mankind, is that we start to recognize that it's very easy to go into what I call programming or the ego mind in order to create. But when we open ourselves up and let the divine pour through, and I really heard that in your first share, Tracy, as you were talking about that the channelings just over time begin to show you a pattern, and that you took that pattern and were like, oh, there's something here. And so often I feel like that's the way the divine works through us, is that we're given these little breadcrumbs, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, like this is actually a package that has a little bow on it, and I had no idea.
Right, 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 right. That in writing this book, it was so surprising to me because I was the lead author on the second book, and I wrote the first book, and there were all these things. You know, I knew that it was going to be a 3-book series. Beard said that, right? And I'm like, uh, all right, well, what's this third book going to be about? They're like, don't worry, write these books, right? And so now I'm right. I wrote those books, and that information came to me, like you said, breadcrumbs. And then I get to this book, and I'm like, oh. I had to have explained this, or else I couldn't have presented this, which was brand new information that they downloaded to me. It's like it was so cool watching it unfold like that.
It's the miracle pattern, is what I call it. And what I love about that is that there's no room for a programming to come into something that is just given in breadcrumbs, right? If you got the full picture, it can get distorted because we hold on to it and try to make it make sense. But if we're just doing the next right step, and we do it in our full potential and allow the divine to fully through us, we don't have to know what step 10 is. We just have to know what step 2 or 3 or whatever step we're on. And then
The
when we
next
get to
step,
step
yeah.
10, then we know, oh, okay, now it all makes sense. But maybe I know this is true for myself. I'm like, wow, there's no way I could have come up with this if I had to hold all of this in order to create it. I just had to hold the one piece that I had until I got to a place where holding it all made perfect sense.
Yeah, in the book we have a whole chapter on purpose because so many people come and go do sessions. What's my purpose? And the answer is what you just said. Take that next step. That is your purpose. Everything else will be shown. Take that next step, right? And so it's like a hard concept. Now we practiced it, and we had 2 brand new, really powerful techniques that downloaded as a result of it and are in the book. One of them is on clearing primary distortions, and the other is on creating your own personal dimensional portal. So, Tracy, why don't you talk about the primary distortion clearing?
Okay. So really, this is like all a distortion arises from early childhood, maybe up to 16 or 17 at the most. And it's a combination of emotions and beliefs about the self that get kind of imprinted early on. And they rise in, I mean, really, I think there's only been one person I've ever worked with where I didn't find any primary distortions. So it's super common, and it arises because when we are young, we are so open, we are so part of everything. And so we think all of the frequencies that surround us have to do with us, right? So if parents are stressed and there's a lot of tension and anger, we think, oh, daddy's mad because I'm not good enough, right? I'm not doing this or that. And I used to always wonder, why is it that so many of us deal with self-esteem issues? And once my team, really other people's teams that I was working with, showed me all these early influences that created the negative beliefs about the self and all the held emotions, I was like, oh, this is why it stems out of being so open and so part of the field and not yet ready to discern that's somebody else's and not mine. And so we clear those kinds of things, and it's just like these layers of self-doubt or feeling unworthy or whatever just clear away. And it's so beautiful to witness.
What I'm hearing in this, I just feel like this is the next thing to kind of reflect into is uh, is being aware. Isn't that that's being aware that they're there, right? So it's, I guess, being able to pick up on those subtle energies that have belief systems. And I really do feel like that's a huge part of early awakening is like you wake up and then you have all these choices, but knowing that where you're making your choices from is such a huge part, because once we recognize that we truly are the creators of our lives, if we keep creating through those old belief systems, then we get more of what we already had and we can't figure out why. So going into that subtle space of recognizing, am I choosing by allowing the divine to flow through me, or am I choosing from one of those behaviors that are connected to belief systems that are, more, I guess, from those early childhood ages that we kind of pulled in and created a belief system around it. So I'd love to talk a little bit about that because I know it's such a huge topic and so many
Mhm.
people struggle with it.
Yeah. So most times a client will come to us. I mean, sometimes they'll just want to get more closer to source, and those are easy sessions. Yeah, we can help you with that, no problem. But most times clients will come with us and say, I'm blocked. I don't know why. And then we dive into it a little bit. And it's always like, oh, I can't make money work. I can't make relationships work. Oh, I've got this health thing that always happens. And you see it. It's like the same thing. You get to be our age and you hear people say, this is my fourth divorce. I don't know why. I'm always broke. I don't know why. Okay. And so you can look at the pattern of their life. So whenever somebody presents to me with, oh, this is going on, I know that there were choices made that created a pattern that had to express in this way. And then what Tracy's discovered with the clearing of the primary distortions is, okay, let's follow it back to its root. Let's see how it affected you. One, with the emotional density that's a blockage, and two, with the belief, unconscious belief that's still attracting all the stuff to you because it's an unconscious choice. So that's the way we look at it. And then, we wave magic wands. No, we don't really don't. We encourage people to experience and complete and then work with them to change. And then miracles happen.
I love that you ended it with that they actually go do something, because if it was as easy as having the awareness and waving a magic wand and changing our lives, but there is some practice. I like to call it practice over work, just because we then have to practice. Okay, well, if I don't believe this anymore, even something that maybe I subconsciously believed. What do I believe now? And what do I focus on to start to shift my reality and shift my identity into something that's actually going to serve? So, what do you have a reflection on that, Tracy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I had some concern that your audience would think like, well, how would I ever know those things?
Mm.
And because I had saw certain things repeat so often, we now have charts that people will just be able to use if they know any form of dowsing or kinesiology. They can use the charts and it's all laid out step by step, what you would ask, what you would check for first, what you would check for next. And then the same thing, there's a whole chart of possible beliefs that are the most common beliefs that I've seen people have stuck somewhere. So they can just be kind of, looking through, following their intuition, using whatever kind of dowsing they have or whatever. And there's just a lot of encouragement that's offered through the book. Like, just set yourself free. Maybe you got a hit that it's this emotion that needs to be cleared, and it wasn't one that was blocked. So what? You'll go through the clearing of it. There will have been nothing to clear it, and you'll be none the worse for wear, right? Eventually, if you just are willing and you're asking divine to be there with you, you are gonna, even if you don't know how to douse, like just get a hit. Okay, I think there's something in here for me. When I read that, I can sense something in my body gets a little like, and then I'm just going to trust that, follow that sensation that I got in my body and ask and allow this to be cleared out of my field. And so we're just really wanting this to be accessible to everyone, right? It's like these hidden chains we have on us, and we want them all released so that you can all run free and be your most joyous, authentic self.
What I love, I actually have a course that's similar to what you're saying, where you douse to find belief systems and different stuff like that. And I can remember this was back in 2020 when I released it. You're reprogramming on a cellular level. And when I was told I was going to teach the work I did, I was like, oh, I can't do that. How do I teach people how to trace energy and read energy? I have no idea how to do that. And then here I'm hearing you had a very similar experience with your work, and then coming up and saying, oh, it really is repeated. Like we're all holding these, I don't know if you want to call them wounds or little like tidbits of density that are in our field, and that they do really show up in a very similar way. And I feel like it's also the space by recognizing those wounds that as we start to work on them and create this place where we can read those subtle energies within our own body, that we can show up differently in life. So I know that that's kind of going full circle back into when we really do the work and we begin to read those subtle energies, and we can learn to release them, clear them, however we want to see it. Then that's when we are most fulfilled, because when we release density and we release the balloons, we become a clear channel for the divine to come in and be of service. So I love that you have this part of it in this book that you're releasing, because it's so powerful to be able to be of service when you're clear. I'll just let you guys take it from there.
So what I want to do is first of all compliment you, because you are exactly what we are hoping everybody on the planet becomes. You followed your intuition, you then decided to create it and then teach it because it was scary, but you grew. And now here you are. This is what I call the second wave of channelers. This is all the people who are getting the information and acting on it. And since there's 8 billion people on the planet, we need as many of us out there as possible. And your system is going to resonate with the people of the frequency that it resonates, like ours is going to. And we need all of us out there, because there's going to, there's 8 billion people. There will be 8 billion paths to ascension. So I just want to compliment you for what you're doing and encourage everybody. Come on, you got a role model here. Okay. You got a role model. This is what it could look like. Okay. Yeah.
Well, right
So
back at you.
well, thank you. Thank you. So what I want to talk about now is dimensional portals, or as we jokingly, lovingly call it, portalini, because we're talking about Kundalini and portals together. Okay. So, about 6 months ago, Spirit showed me this really complex energetic pattern, and I'm like, "Ooh!" All right. So it took me a long time to even like get my head around it. So I was working with an artist back and forth. No, you got to draw this. You got to draw that. Right. Okay. So then I since discovered, okay, there's, you all know what a torus is. I hope it's that donut of energy going around like this. So imagine a donut of energy that's going around like this, but also twirling, spinning. Now imagine two of them going in opposite directions. Okay. And if you can have that center spiral going, if you hold your hand like this and you got your thumb pointing up, you see that one hand points that way. So one spiral going up is spinning that way. And then, we froze. Let's see if we come back here.
I can still hear you, Peter, if you want to keep talking.
Okay. So if you turn your hand in the other direction, then you're going to find that when you put your thumb, if you hold your thumb up, make a ball of fist with your fingers and hold your thumb up, you're going to see that when your Kundalini is going up, it spirals the direction your fingers are going. If you turn your thumb down, your Kundalini going that direction spirals in the opposite direction. So in your core, you've got two separate spirals going. Okay. And that then creates a portal vortex, especially when it moves around you. And if you drop your consciousness into it, then everything is open to you. Time, space, remote viewing, changing timelines, manifestation. If you remember the movie Contact, when Jodie Foster, they built this giant machine and it's got all these bands spinning. So it's creating a torsion field. It's creating its own tesseract. And they drop her into it. And she just drops to the bottom, but she has this experience that takes her out of time and space and sends her across the universe. So this is what I've been shown to do. Now, when we first got this information, I was like, what? So I showed it to some of my friends who know more than me, right? And there's actually theories of consciousness that explain how spin works and it relates to consciousness on a quantum level. And so this is really accessing the science of accessing consciousness. But instead of just being some academic theory, it's here's a simple thing you can do in your living room and then throw yourself into the field of consciousness and experience it. So then I contacted another friend of mine who is like a pyramid expert. He's like, oh yeah, that phi scale, here's the angles and here's how it works on the physics level. And so all this stuff was existing in the field. And then Spirit said, okay, now carry it to everyday people, carry it to everyday people. All right. So that they can get a sense of how to use this. So we've had some experience. Tell them about what you've been picking up from doing this, Trace.
Yeah, so in our group meditation circle that we have, we decided to experiment with doing this all, and it's really what we're doing is accelerating our torus field. Like we all have one already, right? But it's using our consciousness and our intent to get that spinning even faster. And so then we would throw the intent of our meditation circle into it. Now, the first time we did this with the whole group, I had already been practicing it or whatever. So I was there already with my torus field super. So I threw in the intent we held for our circle. And then I was like, okay, well, I still have extra time. I'm going to throw in like this image of myself at this age, but slim and muscular and all this stuff. Cause it's been my biggest struggle, even though I've been really working with my divine on it. It just, didn't move that much. And then, I just threw it in, I let it go. 2 weeks later, I got on the scale and I had lost 8 pounds, which for me is miraculous. Like normally I could go, 6 months super, intense, devoted to, really eating small portions in only certain ways and only lose 4. So this was incredible. And the other thing I threw in there was that I finally was like ready to like get bigger and be more known. So I threw in that Peter and I were going to have more interviews, and it was like crazy. Suddenly you were back connecting, and there was going to be one here. There's been another one that's been just with me, and another one of those lined up, and I just felt like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I thought how we were manifesting before was pretty good, but adding in this thing, it's like unbelievably fast.
I have a reflection for you here because this is really this is my favorite part of this interview, by the way, because this is my world. And I have to share something with you. I don't know if you know this because I went and saw Bruce Lipton in Denver a while back. It's been a while, but there was one part that he shared, and that was that we have 50 trillion cells in our body, and each one of our cells has 1.4 volts of energy. Inside of each cell, we have 150 trillion atoms, and an atom looks like a vortex. It literally looks like this vortex that you're talking about. So I had this huge download. I mean, it was so intense being at his event. I literally was like putting my head down and I was like, oh my God, I can't handle it. It's a download after download. And it had nothing to do necessarily with what he was talking. It was about me connecting into the field and being shown what's next, right? And that's what I kept seeing was exactly what you're showing and how we can just put consciousness in the center of this vortex. And then we have access to all of the energy of not just the universe, but we can specifically use the energy of our body, that 50 times 1.4 hertz in the vortex of the atoms of our cells, and we literally become a walking vortex of energy just by where we're holding consciousness. So it's similar but different than what you guys are doing. I just think it's really, I love how spirit is always showing us very similar things, and we're always picking it up and having these different experiences with it. But I think that there's something here and we all should be playing with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
So what's really cool, Jules, is everybody we talked about this, they say, I've been seeing this Taurus recently in my meditations. And we just hear that so much that it's out there. And we're trying to say, okay, now let's get specific on ways to use it. What's cool is, and we love Bruce Lipton. Thank you. Amen. And what's cool is when I was researching consciousness on the cellular level, Stuart Hamerhoff and Roger Penrose, big name scientists, were identifying where consciousness exists in the body, and they identified microtubules, which are the little things that stick out at the end of your neurons, and that they actually have certain hydrocarbons that create a helix that then allow it to go into this quantum state. And in the quantum state, what's really interesting is, it's not just a switch is on or it's off, it's both on or off everywhere. And so your microtubules go into all these different places and can pick what exactly it is, and then you express it as consciousness. Now, here's what's cool. It's not just in your brain. Every cell in your body has microtubules, which means every cell in your body is connected to that consciousness field that you're talking about. Now it gets even weirder. If you look at Nassim Haramein, all right, and he's talking about the very, very, very tiny Planck scale, and he's talking sub-Planck, and I don't even know how small a Planck is, but it's smaller than quantum, okay? And so he's talking about that the universe is made out of voxels. So like on a computer screen watching this, you got pixels, all the little dots. Well, these are voxels, so it's in 3 dimensions, and they refresh based on these spins, those on-off switches we were talking about. Now, here's the thing. Each of those little voxels is a wormhole, a torus field. And the number of voxels in a single, or could be the number of wormholes in a single voxel, is equal to half the number of the voxels in the universe. So that means each individual little tiny thing is connected to half of the universe. And it's like, so what you're saying is that you supercharge it, right? You get the idea that you are this big electromagnetic field, and you spin it with intent, you put your intent in, the universe is yours. Go anywhere, do anything. That's what we're learning. This is our step into ascension. It's so cool.
And if any of you really want to you just went, oh my God, I want to do this. Peter created this beautiful standalone class that you can purchase. And he takes it through all these different steps. I know for me, like once I saw this class he had created, I was like, I had all these different ways that I could hold the intent for my torus field and how it was expanding out, and not only doing stuff that I wanted, but things that I was holding that like I want everybody to have this, and really seeing it being able to go out to everybody else through this, powering my intent through the portal.
Yeah, it's like it's on the Becoming Awesome website under the classes, under the recorded classes. It's only like 39, 49 bucks, something like that. So if you want to just get some access to it, have fun.
Oh my gosh, so amazing. So we'll put the link for that in the show notes below. And I know you also, I could just sit here and talk about what we just said. This is just, it's so fascinating to me. And there's only one reflection I want to have is, I've been really sitting and I've heard that about the microtubules, and I actually went down that road for a while. And what I realized was, okay, before you go into this place of trying to figure out where consciousness is held, let's identify what is consciousness.
Right.
And that's when I recognized that consciousness is just a tool. Consciousness is the part of us that becomes aware of a reflection of what's being shown. And so we have choices. We can either reflect and create a reality that becomes distorted because we're witnessing it through consciousness, or we can use it as an attuning tool. And so instead of reflecting on what's being shown, like we see it, right? But then once we see it, we use consciousness for what it's actually meant to, and that is to attune to a frequency beyond what was seen. And that's when we start to match our frequency with the frequency of source, and that we enter that frequency and we become a channel of an intelligence. And I followed this for quite a while. And what I recognized is that when we do this over and over and over again, we start to hold consciousness in a higher space, ascension. But then I got to this place where I was like, well, what happens when we attune our consciousness to the frequency of source for a long enough period of time? And what I found was we become unconscious. It's not needed anymore. Once we need to see, and we become the intelligence of source, we're just intelligent and consciousness is no longer needed. And that's when the body is fully activated and all of the distortion goes away and we are just pure source intelligence. So anyways, you can tell like this is my life. This is so
I love what you're
exciting.
saying. I love
Wow,
your
that's amazing.
let me add two fundamental teachings that I got from great teachers. The couple just over Tracy's shoulder, Amma and Bhagavan, taught us that I am existence, consciousness, bliss. That those
Mhm.
three elements are what the I am is. You know, you've identified it as a tool, right? And to me, it's an element. It's the same thing, just different words. Okay. A second teacher, Ramtha said, consciousness plus energy determines the nature of reality. And that's what you just said when you said you put your focus on it and then you become it, and then it's no longer to be the consciousness, you're that thing which you have focused on. So those are two ways that I've heard it expressed, what you just so beautifully put as well, you know. This is where we're going. This is the end game, kind of, so to speak.
It's
Yeah,
very
I love what you
exciting.
said. I want to add one other little piece in.
Yeah, please do.
Um, so what I've been really being shown is like our feelings are source talking to us, right?
Mm.
And so when whatever our consciousness is picked up on and we're witnessing, right? If it causes us to go into a negative feeling, then that's like our awareness, like, okay, you need to change however you were thinking or perceiving of what is going on around you. Shift your perspective until you can view it with love, you know, or with understanding that and gratitude that, like, oh, yay, you're here to help me see something that I do not prefer in my world. And so I'm going to shift my consciousness right now into something that I do prefer. Right. And you can notice it the other way too, something that makes you feel like really good. You can go, yeah, I'm going to put my consciousness even more into this. Let's amplify this. More, please, more, please. Like, this is what I really want to do it. But I also have to say, I'm going to sit and contemplate on what you said, because I have never had this thought before that eventually consciousness that they'll just be so no need for it, but something in me tingled when you said it. And so that means there is definitely something there.
I love that. And thank you for bringing that back to a place where it's very tangible, and kind of what we were talking about before is that this doesn't have to be hard. It's just having the tools or the things to go to so that when we are being shown something that doesn't feel good, it's like, oh, that's it got my attention, right? And in that moment that we have the ability to ascend past the programming that's judging that as good or bad and actually move into a pure state where there, and that isn't that the whole point. I mean, that's what I think one of the ancient teachings all the way back as far as we can go have all agreed, that being in a space of stillness or in the present moment really does unravel the good and the bad and the past and the present, and or the past and the future. And that being in the present moment, there's a lot of gifts and opportunities. But I also feel like that's the one place where we all get hung up is, how do I hold my consciousness in an abstract frequency where I'm not identifying in something? And that's when I recognized, oh, well, you just learned to attune. So instead of identifying, you attune, just like matching a piano, you match the frequency of source. So it always has somewhere to go.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, love
All
that.
right. Well, I know you guys have a course coming up on October 18th, I believe.
So I think it's Friday the 18th. Is free. Check out the energy to see if you like our energy. And then the 19th and 20th is all day. They're intensives. They're 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So they're long days. They're designed that way to get you tired so you get out of the way and you can let stuff happen. There you're going to experience. You're going to experience what it's like to shift into these places, and that's like we can talk about it and it's exciting. You read it in the book, but do it with your group and experience it, and then you'll know, you'll have that, and it'll be, that energy will be within you now.
I find that as we move forward in these new frequencies that are just obviously pouring in, that learning through experience comes first, and then go and read about and learn about what you just experienced, because then you're learning through something that your body is holding. Like once you have the experience, your body will release the frequency so that when you learn what you experience, it's embodied so much faster. And I love that you guys are teaching through experience. It's just, I really do feel that this is the new way that we'll all be learning moving forward, and that you're doing this is also just showing that you're listening and you're following the guidance. And it's just so exciting to have this reflection. You are truly family. I really feel that way. And I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to say anything that hasn't been said so far.
Well, I don't want to overwhelm your audience, but I also want to say that September 28th at 10 in the morning.
We're not good.
Oh, no. Okay.
This is
Sorry,
airing
cut that
October
out.
11th, sweetie.
Okay.
Oh,
Right.
that's okay.
Sorry about
Here's the books. This is the first one, my Ascension Handbook Level 1. Start there if you're reading them. It really is the series that builds. And thank you. And thank you, Jules, so much for being, it's who you are and bringing your beautiful light to the world.
Yeah, I've so enjoyed getting to meet with you. And I'm glad that it was a conversation and we got to hear about, your thoughts and how you're thinking about things. I could do this all day.
Oh, right back at you. Right back at you is what I love about having this platform, to be able to connect with others. And I always learn so much every single time. And I appreciate you bringing your wisdom. And I'm just so lit up, and I can't wait to go and check out what all you guys are doing. And we definitely want everybody else to check it out too. So we'll have those links in the show notes below. And I just want to just one more time thank you both for bringing your love and your purity and your wisdom for everybody. It just means so much to us. And thank you everybody for listening. We're just sending you so much love and a big hug. And until we meet again, just know that you are supported. We are with you. We are ascending together. And in this journey, we have the ability to create great change. Love you all.
Lots of love.
Amen
See
to
ya.
that. Thank you.